My friends, we are living in trying times. I have heard and said these words countless times over the past few years. It seems that each week, sometimes each day, there is another frightening story on the news, local, national, international. We try to work to change the world, and it pushes back and back and back on us, and it is frightening and demoralizing. And the ways we talk about how we make it through begin to seem inadequate. I find it more and more difficult to find the hope in the world around us. Most days I'm not even sure where to begin. It feels so daunting. Now is a time for digging deep and trusting the seeds we have planted in the past. But what do we tell the children? We tell them that we will do our best to protect them, but that everything is not okay. We tell them we are sorry that we didn't fix things sooner. We tell them that we don't know what is going to happen, but we will hold hands and fight together. And we need to tell ourselves these things too. And when it comes down to it, it matters less what we tell them, but what we show them, how we teach them to resist. Because that's the place we are in today. We must resist. The people in power are giving us lots and lots of information about who they are and what they plan to do. Here in North Carolina, we've already seen just in the past few days unprecedented legislation passed that limits the power of the incoming governor. North Carolina, for the past few years, has been an example of what people think is likely to happen on a national level. And since we've already been part of the resistance for the past 3 years here, we have knowledge, strategies, support to share. There is work to be done, as there always is. My work has fundamentally changed in the past 8 weeks. It's true that I still spend most of my time working on daily tasks related to running programs in this congregation. I meet with you when you have pastoral needs. I go to my regular meetings about social justice and administration and other things. And at the same time, I am now constantly gathering information and making connections related to the resistance. That's a capital R, the resistance. There is no time to wait and see what is going to happen. It is already happening. Harassment and bullying are up. Suicides of marginalized people are up. Legislative retaliation has happened and will continue to happen. And all the news on the incoming administration is showing us exactly what to expect. And so we must resist now. What does resistance look like? On a fundamental level, it means refusing to accept ableism, attacks on democracy, racism, bullying, anti-Semitism, voter suppression, environmental harm, mistreatment of immigrants, corporate personhood, homophobia, Islamophobia, transphobia, pseudoscience, authoritarianism, and my personal favorite, the patriarchy. That list came from a graphic made by a UU named Christine Purcell. It says, "My UU values call me to resist all these things." The good news is that these are all things that we have been against as a congregation, as a faith community, as a denomination for a long, long time. And so the first important thing that we can do to resist is to keep doing what we have been doing. We have relationships within this community and within the greater Asheville community I can tell you that here in this congregation, we will continue to provide practical training for how to resist, like the active bystander training that Joy McConnell so ably led last week. In the new year, as part of our Earth and Social Justice Ministry, I will begin leading resiliency circles, which are small groups that provide connection, support, and spiritual reflection to people doing activist work. In addition, the Earth and Social Justice Ministry is launching Action Wednesdays beginning January 18th. This is a monthly opportunity for social justice working groups to come together and focus on tasks and activities and planning. And you will have more ideas for resisting. I'm certain of it. And we want to hear them so that we can support you in your resistance. We can support you in making your piece of the resistance happen. There is also still personal work to be done. We have to own the ways that we have participated in the oppressive system, not in a self-flagellating way, but in a way that allows us to move out of paralysis and fear and into action. Because there are some of us in this room who have felt for most of our lives that we are able to trust the system. We need to own and understand that we are beginning to see that it is not, in fact, a trustworthy system. It is becoming clearer and clearer that if we ever could trust the system, by now it is irrevocably broken. We need to own our unintentional ignorance and understand that there are also people in this room who have never been able to trust the system. We can look at what happened in the North Carolina State House on Friday as an example of the system failing in a profound way. And we can listen to what our siblings of color have been telling us for decades. We feel voiceless, powerless, at a loss for what to do. We are not used to that. We believed in the system, and we trusted it to keep us safe. But the field is burning. Joyce spoke of the blessings of the fire. And that story about blessings of fire is not about easy optimism. It is not about finding the silver lining. It is about a deep and tenacious hope. It is about knowing that even when everything has burned to the ground, new life is still possible. These are rough blessings. And in the midst of these rough blessings, the most important thing that we can do is be true to who we are as a people. We are a religious community. We are a congregation. We are a community that gathers to support one another. We are here to provide tools for making meaning in our lives, to deepen our spiritual engagement, to care for one another, and to reach out and work for justice. We believe in making justice in the world around us. Our values call us to resist oppression and bigotry. It may be frightening to think about taking such a strong stand. Isn't Unitarian Universalism supposed to be about accepting every belief and every idea? Well, no. That's not exactly it. We believe that all beings have worth and dignity, but all ideas do not fit within our values. I'm going to give you the list again. Our values call us to resist ableism, attacks on democracy, racism, bullying, anti-Semitism, voter suppression, environmental harm, mistreatment of immigrants, corporate personhood, homophobia, Islamophobia, transphobia, pseudoscience, authoritarianism, and the patriarchy. And so ideas and beliefs, and most importantly, actions, that perpetuate or normalize any of these things are against Unitarian Universalist values. It is time for us to stand up and fight. I am reminded of the book, The Order of the Phoenix, the 5th in the Harry Potter series. In this particular scene, Harry Potter is angry. He and his friends are in Professor Dumbledore's office, and he is throwing things and yelling. "I don't care," he yelled at them, snatching up a lunoscope and throwing it into the fireplace. "I've had enough. I've seen enough. I want out. I want it to end. I don't care anymore." "You do care," said Dumbledore. He had not flinched or made a single move to stop Harry demolishing his office. His expression was calm, almost detached. "You care so much, you feel as though you will bleed to death with the pain of it." Pretty much every day now, I feel like Harry. I'm done. I can't take it anymore. I want out. And yet, I care so much that it hurts. The truth is that there is no out. This is the world we live in. It is the world that we have helped create, for better or for worse. And so we must figure out together how to live in it, because our lives are a gift. A complicated, frustrating, challenging, dangerous, and exquisite gift. There's a beautiful prayer by Jessica York, who is a UUA Faith Development Director in Alabama and a woman of color. It's called "Gird Thyself." She says, "This is not a prayer that you may find hope, for hope is a luxury that some cannot find and others cannot afford. This is not a prayer that you find more love in the world, though I hope you continue to feel love and send love to those near and far. I pray instead that you may find tools. A hammer lying half hidden in the grass, a roll of duct tape curled up and forgotten on a high shelf in the back of the closet, a wrench poking out of the back pocket of a stranger. Take these tools and gird thyself. A hammer for justice, duct tape to hold together the broken heart, a wrench to grip and provide advantage and applying torque to upturn objects, or turn the world. Take these tools and others you may find in places expected and unexpected. Take these tools and gird thyself, for weeping may last through the night, but the work begins in the morning. The work that begins in the morning will look different for each of us. Some of us are quite simply in survival mode, putting one foot in front of the other. Some will, in fact, need to leave to keep themselves or their families safe. And that's okay. But those of us who have a choice must stand and fight. We must show up as we have always done, and we must stay. We must stay put, stay engaged, stay awake. We must resist together. Here is what my resistance looks like right now. I am in conversation with other clergy and lay leaders who are organizing. These conversations include topics like establishing secure communications for texting about actions, building infrastructure to help the people who are most at risk in this country, discussing legal strategies for combating unconstitutional actions by legislators. And I am spending as much time as I possibly can listening to my siblings and colleagues of color and those who are trans and marginalized in different ways than I am, who are less surprised by these new developments in our political culture and more prepared to handle them. These folks, some of you in this room, were not shocked by the results of the election. You have been living in scorched earth your whole lives, and you know already that there's no I'm done, there's no I'm out no more, because the only choice is to keep living. It's a strange place to find myself, honestly. I kind of thought I was already a social justice warrior. But the stakes are so high, and I've barely scratched the surface. The further we go down this road to authoritarianism, the more difficult it gets. Because I'm also reflecting daily about how I will use my body in this fight. Reflecting daily about the risks and challenges that face me, and how my responsibilities to my family, my vocation, and to all of you will impact the choices that I make. I started writing this sermon certain that I had no good news to give you. I felt as if I was sitting up in that tree, watching the fire burn. But again and again and again, I return to the power of community. I can't count the number of you who quietly came up to me after the election and said, I will fight for your family. Friends, I don't know if we will all make it through, but I do know that we will stand and fight together. And that is what we tell the children. We will fight. We will hold on to each other through the despair, and we will lean on each other when we lose the battle. And love, fierce as a mother bear protecting her cubs, will never die. The role of a preacher is a strange one. Are we pastors or are we prophets? And as with many things, the answer is yes. We are both. I am a pastor, part of my calling I take very seriously, and at the same time I have a prophetic voice and a call to speak the truth. I want so much to stand here and tell you that it will be okay, that we will make it through. But I can't promise you that. We know that much of the incoming administration's proposed policy has predictable consequences. More deportations, less health care access, limits on civil rights of all kinds. The list goes on and on and on. We all want to come to church and feel comforted, especially when life around us is so frightening. But empty comfort would be a lie. The one thing I can promise you is that I will never lie to you. And I am here to tell you, Daddy is whistling. The field is on fire. And I know deep in my heart that the connections between us that will be what save us as a people. Are you sitting in the tree watching? Know that if that is your role, you must be the one to tell the story when it is all over. Did you put up extra food from your garden so that you could share when your neighbor's crops don't yield? If that is your role, know that you must reach out and share with those who may not be your neighbor. Is your face parched from heat as you dip the burlap in water over and over, trying in vain to beat back the flames? Know that as long as you are part of this community, you will not fight alone. May it be so. so.
Yeah, Lisa.